o'clock, so Zach, if I call the meeting over, if you can have roll, please.
Kelso?
Here.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Butterfield?
Here.
Hanbeck?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Spar? Warren?
Here.
We have a quorum.
If everybody had a chance to look at minutes from May 28th, there's no amendments. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 2024.
Okay. Council would like to just read a,
Got to call the vote on the minutes.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Hanbeck?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Spar?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Kelso?
Yes.
Butterfield?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
All right, with that taken care of, Council, you'd like to read your little statement?
Thank you. Public hearing is being held tonight pursuant to published notice. Any person wishing to address the zoning board will be sworn in by our court reporter and will give their testimony under oath or affirmation. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Zoning Board of Appeals will make its determination. 4 yes votes are required to obtain approval. The purpose of the public hearing is for the ZBA to hear testimony regarding whether the proposed variance meets the required legal standards for a variance to be issued. The public hearing is not intended merely to afford an opportunity to comment generally on whether a proposed project is or is not a good idea. Relevant factors for the ZBA to consider are set by state law and village code. Those relevant factors include whether a hardship exists, which is not caused by the owner and which is unique to the property at issue. Testimony offered should be limited to factors deemed relevant by state law and village code. Rules of order govern the conduct of tonight's public hearing. No one should speak unless and until recognized by the chair, and any speaker should follow the directions of our chair.
Thank you. And before our first case, Zach would like to give just a brief history of this case, or this piece of property.
So just really quickly, tonight, we're here to discuss the accessory building located at 27 Waldheim Road. The existing structure is a 1,200 square foot building with an attached 400 square foot lean-to. The structure measures 18 foot in height at the peak. For a parcel under 2.75 acres, a 480 square foot and 13 foot tall structure is allowable by code. In 2014, the former owner, Drew Carroll, applied for and was granted a variance to construct the building to the current size. In late 2023, prior to purchasing the home, the Schaefers contacted the village via email, ultimately to discuss applying for a variance to accommodate their motorhome and modify the structure. The variance was never brought to the zoning board, and the Schaefers moved forward with the purchase of the home.
Okay, thanks. So with that, the first case tonight is number 24-05. A variance has been requested for a property located at 27 Waldheim Road. The petitioner seeks a variance from section 10-5-3 of the Village Municipal Code in relation to the size of the accessory structure. Mr. Schaefer, if you're going to speak, could you step up and Lee will swear you in? Yeah, you can step up at the podium and just give your name and address.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Scott Schaefer. My wife, Jan, is here with me this evening. About a year ago, as a matter of fact, we purchased the property at 27 Waldheim, and we've been working diligently to move into that residence after having lived over on Kansas and Monroe for 33 years. Jan's a lifelong resident of Morton as well, and I've been here for 34 years now. So we're here to talk to you this evening about our outbuilding. The property which we've purchased is a dream home for us. It is an absolutely beautiful setting. We're really enjoying it. It offered 90% of what we really needed in order to accomplish that dream. And we're here to talk to you tonight. Oh, yeah, sorry. As I was saying, this residence, this property is a dream home for us. It's 90% of what we could have hoped for, and we're hoping after having a chance to speak our mind in our case here with you this evening, we can implement a remaining 10%. So you see a picture of the building as it exists today. Let's move maybe to the next slide. We just talked about this a moment ago. Jan and I have been a long longtime residents of Morton. Love it here. It's a great town, great people. And we want to talk to you about our outbuilding today. So if you look at the Tazewell County GIS, you can see our property. Off to the right, you can see the residence, and then with the 207 on the top and the ellipse, you can see the outbuilding shown in plan view here. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what we're proposing to do and enhance capabilities of this site for our needs is summarized on this slide. You can see on the view in the right, there's this orange rectangle on the back of the building. It'd be on the northwest corner. We're envisioning adding 6 feet of length and 15 feet of width. This gives us an incremental floor space of about 90 square feet, which is about 7.5% of the baseline. And if you kind of use a benchmark, if you will, a typical out shed, 12 by 14, that's about a little over half of the square footage of a typical outbuilding, or not outbuilding, yard shed. The setback from the property line remains the same with the addition of this bump out. And we're dealing with a couple of contractors at this point, but I can assure you that both of them are accredited and would be ending up with a result that's equivalent or superior to the design and quality of our current structure. Okay, so just a little bit about the structure. It's a poured concrete footer, foundation, and floor. Radiant heat in this floor. 2x6 wall construction. Bottom plate is bolted to the foundation. And it's a nice building. Insulated walls and ceiling, finished with steel siding inside and out. You can see the general dimensions there, as was mentioned earlier. 30 feet width, 40 feet overall length. Next slide, please. So this helps us to see the dilemma that we're trying to address, if you will. 40-foot overall dimension on the outside, 39 feet inside. The Renegade motorhome that we own has an overall length of 40 feet and 8 inches, so we've got a little challenge there. Next slide, please. And it is our position that this can be readily modified and addressed with the simple addition of a 6-foot bump out and 15 feet wide, as shown in this view. And you can see in the lower right view there what the profile of the addition would look like. The next slide expands on that a little bit more. And you can see the outline of the proposed upgrades shown in red. We have views looking to the east in the top 2 panes and views looking to the north in the bottom pane. So that's what we're proposing. I want to go to the next slide to kind of talk about some of the benefits that would result as a result of doing this. If we're in a position to implement and move forward here, this is going to eliminate a hardship for us in that it's going to allow us to a higher level of security, environmental protection for our motorhome, and also provide for some savings from a monthly payment perspective in that we rent a space today in order to store that vehicle. The other thing that I would assert is that by doing this, we will increase the overall value of the property, and that would be a positive contribution to the tax base for the Village of Morton. Furthermore, there's going to be some stimulus to our local economy by doing this. We intend for certified builders and contractors. They're going to realize revenue as a result of this. Local sources will be used in order to provide the materials required to do the improvements. And of course, Village of Morton will see some increase in sales tax revenue as a result of purchasing those goods and services. The other thing that we've been very careful to consider in all this is we want to be good neighbors. We want to continue to be good neighbors. And accordingly, we want to minimize and essentially have no impact on our surrounding residents. Views of the outbuilding are really obstructed by trees pretty much from all vantage points. So it would be our recommendation and our wish in order to be able to receive approval and proceed with execution of the project. And that's my presentation.
Okay, before we get anything, I've got a request here. I got a petition. The undersigned residents of Hyde Park and Waldheim respectfully request the Village of Morton Zoning Board to deny the variance requested with case number 24-05, this case. There's already a very large accessory building present on 27 Waldheim Road property. The existing accessory structure already presents a less than attractive industrial look and an otherwise attractive neighborhood marked by abundant natural beauty. That existing building's industrial look is present year-round, but particularly in the winter when there are no leaves on the trees, to at least partially hide it, and its bright white floodlights that burn all night long. Adding an additional building would only exaggerate the industrial, unattractive look to the existing building and offers otherwise attractive neighborhood today. And I've got signatures of 8 addresses around you at 250-foot deal, so.
Well, may I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly the floodlight is an easy thing to do. I can take care of that tonight. That's not a problem. One thing I will say that I'm extremely disappointed in is we weren't a party to this petition.
Yeah.
You know, we would have felt a lot better if that would have been something we could have discussed. Prior to the meeting, we only learned of this petition about the middle of last week. And certainly, with the parties that are concerned, we would be happy to have a discussion about that. It all unveiled itself to us in such a short time frame, though we really didn't have, number one, we didn't know who the people were that were concerned. Number two, just really didn't have time to have that conversation. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and I think it's, what your plan is your plan, so I don't know how you.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that I found out, you know, the details of that in this meeting.
Yeah. This is common, I mean, as far as when we do these things, we have this happen, you know, not to this extent, but we always, you know, we have people come and they, you know,
Yeah.
voice their, and they only come at the day of the meeting, so I mean, they don't really have time to talk, so.
One other thing I would like to also point out is you tell us what you think, but we feel as though we've been extremely good neighbors in Waldheim. We've invested nearly 6 figures in improving the landscape and the surroundings and cleaning up considerable amount of issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think their only issue here is, I think it's just the building. They're not, whatever you've done, they're probably happy with that, I'm sure, but this is just that.
So the only reason for me bringing that up is our heart's in the right place. We're trying to strike a balance between what we need and making sure that we're very responsible and courteous neighbors. We continue to want that to be our objective here.
One point of order, you have adopted rules of procedure that would prohibit you from considering what's set forth in a written document unless individuals who have subscribed to it are here present and essentially testify and are subject to examination by the board. So as an evidentiary proposition in terms of whether or not you should award the case, you can't give consideration to what's on that paper. So if anybody's present and who signed it and they want to come on the record and indicate and give you the opportunity to ask them questions or hear their testimony under affirmation, then they can incorporate those statements. But for anybody who's not here especially, those statements aren't relevant to your procedure.
Well, my personal feelings, the thing, if this building came to me even before your deal today, and not 2014, I wouldn't grant this one. Because I have seen it, and it's unsightly when it is. I mean, it's just a big Morton building, and, you know, in the back, and it is visible, I mean, in the wintertime. But that's just my feelings. If I had to do it again, I don't think I would. I don't, you know, we have a little more stuff in place now as far as hardships, and I think a hardship is you have a big motorhome, I have a big semi, I just have to pay rent. It's just the way, I have to just get a place for it. I'd like to keep it in my own place, but I can't. I think this happens to a lot of people with big motorhomes, and it's hard to find a nice place to keep them and keep them safe, but I think they're out there.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Could you repeat again, like, what was the limitations on the first variance that was granted? Like, what was, based on the size of the property, what would have been the largest structure, and then what again was this one?
The largest structure via the code would have been a 480 square foot in terms of the footprint of the building or structure, and 13 foot tall. And the variance was granted to make the structure 1,200 square feet and 18 foot tall.
So that was quite a bit larger.
Just about short of 3 times larger.
Yeah.
Does anybody from the audience wish to comment to this case?
I would.
Okay. If you'd like to stand in front of Lee, and she'll swear you in. Yes. Scott, you just have a seat for a little bit. Jim, if you just state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Jim Parker. I have the properties directly to the north of the said discussion here at 26 and 32 Hyde Park Drive. So I probably carried the brunt of the view, particularly in the winter, although I do see it, and I certainly respect what you're trying to do. I really do. But I want to tell you, you can still see it in the summer. You can see it right now through the holes in the leaves and the trees. But in the winter, I mean, it is a 40-foot long, 18-foot tall block of steel with a small window in it. I might as well be across the street from IDOT. I mean, that's basically what it looks like. It is, for me, looking at the other side, it's less unattractive to me. To be honest with you, it looks more like a regular facility as opposed to just a wall of steel. But bottom line is, when I was told about this, was it 2014, I guess? It was not, I didn't get the detail of the size of that building, and when it went up, it was an aw shucks moment. I mean, had I known at that time what this building was going to look like, I'd have been down here with every neighbor I could find fighting this thing, because it is not attractive. I think all the people in that neighborhood feel very much the same. I didn't realize the legal implications of the petition that they had to be here. I'm sure there would have been other people here had they known that. But the fact of the matter is, I think it was a mistake. From my individual perspective, it was a mistake to allow that building to be built the first time, and to allow an extra 15% on that end of that length would just be a real challenge. It just exacerbates an already not so attractive situation.
Does it, just hold that thought. Does anybody in the board want to address Mr. Parker?
So that
Any questions?
stick-out portion, Jim?
Yeah.
Does that face?
Yeah,
your
we're
property?
directly north, so if you look at where he's at, yeah. So we're directly north, so the 6 foot would face our place. Right? So it'd be 46 foot there. As I understand it, right? If I understand it right.
If you will scroll to the design. One more, I can just relax. Where the views are. Northwest corner.
One procedural point of clarification for the petitioners. You'll have kind of a rebuttal opportunity as well. One of the things that helps, you're okay, and that's why I'm explaining it to you. One of the things that helps us is the microphone system picks us up good when we're up there, but when you're in a crowd, it's harder to. So it'll work easier if we let everybody who wants to provide comment go, and then you'll get as much time as you need to provide rebuttal at the end.
Anybody else have a question? All right, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else in the audience wish to comment? Sir, you step in front. You state your name and address.
My name's Mike Rochford, and I'm at 23 Waldheim. So actually, if you go back to that plan view, if you could scroll back up there, yeah, that one there. My house would be the one that you see on the bottom of the slide there. So not as direct a view of what the addition would be as Mr. Parker, but I'm probably, other than my neighbor just to the left there, probably the one that has the most direct view of what the building is. My feeling for my wife also, Leah, who's not able to make it tonight, but representing us, would be, I feel that the building should not be increased in size. It was a variance already to get to the size that it is, and I'm not comfortable that that variance is extended even further to make the building even larger. Although I don't have a direct view to where this addition would be, that is
Yeah,
our
you're a direct
proposal.
neighbor, that's. All right,
Any questions? Otherwise, that's my only statement.
appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Again, is there anybody else? Mr. Laura, you want to step?
Council, my name is Gary LeVar. I'm at 88 Waldheim, which is just across the circle there where you see the circle drive. So that's the back of my property that looks that direction. And I would like to start with this by saying, what you guys have done in this neighborhood to that home is absolutely gorgeous. My wife and I go by all the time. The improvements you've made, they're absolutely beautiful. They've helped everything in the neighborhood. They've done everything you've said they're going to do. You didn't petition that building to be that big when it was a previous owner, but you did accept the building the way it was, knowing that that your motorhome would not fit it when you bought the home. It isn't like it was a surprise. You knew that when you got it. What I would only like to state is that we've been there for 22 years. We were the last house built in there. There was an architectural committee and design group at Waldheim for decades as the homes were being built. They were allowing one outbuilding per residence, and they were approving the design and the shape and the size of the homes. All that got built out. Matter of fact, ours was the last home built in that subdivision. And everybody had their outbuildings, everybody had their buildings and done. So coincidentally, a couple years prior to Mr. Carroll putting the building up, the architecture committee wasn't ever used. It hadn't been used. No one had made a change. No one had asked for a new building. Everybody had their outbuildings in the right places. Some were a little bigger than they probably should have been, but they were there. And the neighborhood ran wonderfully. So the architectural committee was dissolved. It wasn't used. We still have a homeowners association that does everything. But the simple thing is, by the bylaws are there, this would never have gotten to this committee for Mr. Carroll asking for that variance, because the architectural committee in Waldheim would never have approved it, ever, at that size. In the 400, 500 square foot, absolutely. And there are some buildings of that size out there, and they fit nicely in the neighborhood. The Carroll property already has an outbuilding. It was approved. It is a small outbuilding to the right side of their home. This building is, as was stated, 3.5 times size larger than what probably would have been approved at the time. So I turn to you as neighbors. I turn to you as people, and I would like to just make one comment very clear. You said didn't know anything about this petition. I had no idea you were doing this until I got it in the mail. So no one said a word in the neighborhood. I don't think your neighbors, either side, knew that this was going to happen. So we were just following a procedure. The city sent us a letter. My property's within 250 feet. I officially got the letter, and I'm replying to it. I would have gladly sat down and talked to you if you'd came before, and I would have probably just shared this conversation with you on our back deck and said, guys, this building is 3 times bigger than it should have been to begin with. It doesn't fit in Waldheim. We're just a small little subdivision of very tight homes, in the middle of a white oak forest. And again, I want to finish by saying what I started in the beginning. What you've done to that property is absolutely beautiful. And I know the kind of money you put into it. I know Scott Morton does an amazing job. You guys have done a great job to it. So I can't thank you enough for that. And for that matter, I believe it has, from a curb appeal, increased the value of that home, which you deserve. So that's my only state. You did get into it knowingly that it was not going to fit. And you also, I believe, got into it knowingly that that building was 2 to 3 times larger than what it should have been in that neighborhood. Now, that was done before you got there, and you bought that fair and square, and I totally agree with that. I would love to have that building somewhere, not in Waldheim. And that's just, I'm just looking at you square in the eyes telling you that. I would have told you that on our back deck have we just had this conversation a long time ago. So that's my statement.
All right, thank you,
If you
Gary.
have any questions, please, I'd be glad to answer them. Is that it for me?
Yeah,
think we're
just
good.
one quick one.
Yes, sir.
So it's just the size, or is it the aesthetics of the whole building that don't fit with the whole neighborhood?
It's a wonderful machine shop. It would fit wonderful in certain areas of Morton. It's a metal building. It does have a very nice overhang on the side with a porch underneath it. That's all good and well. But there isn't a building like that within, well, I don't know how far. So there isn't a building like that in Hyde Park, in Dornridge, in Ossamy, in Waldheim. It just doesn't look to play. It never did. It's out of place in all of those neighborhoods. And again, it probably should never have been allowed to begin with, and therefore you would never have had this issue, because that building would have been 400 to 500 square feet. And you may not have chosen that home because it wouldn't have fit your motorhome. And I respect that. And I'm trying to be as kind as I can be, because I really understand where you're at. Does that answer your question, Mr. Habeck?
Yeah. All right, thank you. Mr. Schaefer, you want
Yeah.
to stand up and you can do,
Well, it's neither here nor there, but we had reason to believe at the time of purchase that we would be able to secure this bump out that's required.
you might have talked into
Oh,
that.
sorry, I said that we had reason to believe at the time of purchase that we'd be able to secure the bump out that we're seeking to get done tonight. So, shame on us, I suppose, for being trusting souls, but that was the reality of it, and that was a factor that entered into our discussion. And the other thing, I can accept the criticism certainly about the lights. That can be addressed tonight. I had no idea it was causing heartburn for folks. Again, knock on our door. Our caller number is listed on the contact sheets there at Waldheim. So, we all have to work at the communications game. So, I would have a different perspective. I understand that you're concerned about the size of the building. What we're asking about here is a 7.5% increase, not 15%, 7.5% increase in the size of the building. So, being an old engineer, that doesn't strike me as a huge matter. I would even also go further to say, if there are concerns about the aesthetics, we can talk about that. It is what it is. It's there. It's going to continue to be there. Hopefully, it's going to be in a position to fit our purpose. But if we need to open up some channels of communication on how we can improve the appearance, I'm open to have that conversation.
Does anybody else have any questions, Mr. Schaefer?
Who told you you could get a variance
Uh,
when you bought it?
In a discussion with the selling realtor, I can't remember his name right now. So,
I know you emailed everybody, you at least emailed me on
Yeah.
in 2023. but-
yeah. So we.
And I never answered you, so.
Yeah, well, and as it turns out, you guys see the test, we've been pretty busy there. And really, this just didn't come to the top of the pile. until now, we've been working quite extensively with Morton's and working on the landscaping. We had to prioritize budgets and, you know, work our way through the process. And the highest priorities were to get the curb appeal looking more like it should. You know, guys, I want you to understand. I mean, I'm a little disappointed in this conversation we're having here tonight. We love it there. It's a beautiful setting. And we're just asking for a little help on this one issue. You know, I know that it's something you're concerned about, and frankly, we can't help the fact that it was built, like you pointed out, Mr. Lamar. We can't help the fact that it was built larger than code before we purchased. And had we fully appreciated the consequence, maybe things might have gone differently. But we're willing to work on the problems that you guys identified.
I do have a question for the city. How did that driveway ever get back there? Was that ever, I mean, that can't be, I mean, that's a lot of asphalt to pour in a backyard or lay.
In terms of that, I'd have to look into the history of the
Yeah.
permits, but I don't have that information with me currently.
Because I know that wasn't on the variance when he got size of the shed, but I don't remember a driveway of that much square footage.
I think at the time, Drew Carroll, I believe he had a fifth wheel trailer.
Yeah.
And basically that provides an opportunity as you pull down there with a large vehicle.
Yeah, I just.
To nose in
Yeah.
and then back into the building. That was the purpose of that. And
Is that
today,
thick
when
enough- that thick
when I do park the motorhome outside there,
Is it thick enough to hold your
yeah,
motorhome?
that's been no problems.
Yes, Gary. Gary, I'll tell you what, yeah, why don't you come up and I'll have, yeah, I have to just get to the mic, please, for the court reporter.
Your question was, how did the blacktop get there? Well, I didn't quite.
Yeah,
hear
I
the
just
question.
want to know if he applied for a building permit or something. That is a lot of asphalt.
It is, and I will just give, because this is total hearsay, and I know you have to respect it as
Yeah.
that. But in the only conversation I had with Drew was about that, and he said, it's just going to be white rock. And then a month later, the asphalt truck showed up and poured the asphalt. So I don't know, but I know that the original plan was to be some sort of white rock drive back there. So I don't know how it got there, but that's the
Right,
conversation.
right,
that was
okay,
had.
okay,
I don't know
thank
if
you.
that helps or not helps. but-
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, could he apply for that today and get that much driveway?
You'd have to go through a whole review process and such, but since this case wasn't really pertaining to the driveway, I didn't pull up any information
Okay,
on that.
okay.
I mean,
And that doesn't, I'm sorry, I'm just,
Okay.
that was part of the property when we purchased.
yeah, oh, yeah, I know that, I know it's nothing has to do with you, I just wondered how Drew got it. I don't have any other questions. Anybody on the board have any more questions? All right, yes, could we have a roll, please?
You want to do last call from the public first?
Oh,
and then
okay. Does-
I don't think we got a motion on the case. You need to
Oh,
close the
does
hearing.
anybody else want to comment? All right, with that, okay, do we hear a motion?
Let him have a seat.
You can go ahead and sit down, thanks.
All right, good. That's right.
Motion, please. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we grant case number 24-05 under 10.10.2C as stated.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Butterfield,
No.
Jones,
No.
Hamback,
No.
Bartholomew,
No.
Warren,
No.
Kelso,
No.
Spar.
No.
Parents has been denied. I appreciate all the work you went through to it. I appreciate everybody that showed up. It helps when everybody can do this and work like this. So with that, Zach, you have anything to comment on?
Not tonight.
Mr. Hilliard?
Not tonight, Mr. Chairman.
With that, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.